Hey friends, welcome back to the Radically Rachael Podcast. Today I'm joined by my longtime friend, Veronica. Veronica and I met when we both were a part of a Christian theater group in the Chicagoland area. We went to summer camp together and later discovered that we were transferring to the same college. We reconnected as juniors at Illinois State University. Veronica majored in social work while I studied elementary education. And I think that Veronica's social work lens and experience brings so much to this conversation today. I invited Veronica on the podcast because I wanted her to talk about identity in politics and how she herself has neither ascribed to be totally Republican or Democrat. She's voted a bit differently in different elections, as well as she's spending time engaging with people in critical conversation, in dialogue, in the comment section of social media. Not everybody has the capacity to engage with people in the comment section, and that's not everybody's role to play in the resistance and the revolution either. But Veronica has some great tips, tricks, and strategies to help us to meet people where they are, to treat them with love, worthiness, and respect. And I personally learned so much from this conversation that I had with Veronica today. I hope that it will be just as impactful for you. Hey Radicals, I'm joined here with my best friend, Veronica.
Hi, everybody.
And Veronica and I have been chatting lately about all the things going on in the world. And she shared with me that she has been kind of communicating and commenting with friends and strangers, people she doesn't necessarily know, in the comment section on social media, which I think is a very brave and noble thing to do. And it's not something that everybody has the capacity to do. But I knew that I wanted to invite Veronica on the podcast to kind of share with us a little bit about what that's been like and the boundaries and the safeguards that she's put in place for herself to protect herself while she's doing that.
It was fun when you asked me this and you wanted to talk about it. I was like, okay, yeah, totally. I mean, like, I'm a chatter and that's in real life, but apparently also online. It's just interesting that a lot of people are like, oh, social media is toxic. You can never get anything done on there. People, keyboard warriors and all of that. And I do believe that that is the case in some cases. But at the same time, I have to remember that my mind has been changed a million times. And it's mostly because of what I read and what I'm seeing in the news and people that I trust and follow on social media, that have credentials even, right? And so if my mind can be changed or pushed or challenged, um, I would like to be a part of somebody else's journey in that too, if that makes sense. And like you mentioned, I have set boundaries and I don't engage with people who don't sound like they're coming into something in good faith. I don't neglect my children in order to do that, right? Like if I have
Yes.
time, if I have energy, it's kind of like a side quest, a little hobby, something that I'm doing instead of maybe watching, 50 TikToks now. I'm just going to be replying to a few people on social media and having conversations. That's kind of how I do it.
That is a radical change from like scrolling, social media scrolling, to like spend that time engaging and trying to inform or educate, or just like dialoguing, because it doesn't have to
Mhm.
necessarily be like facts and articles, but it's just like
Right.
curiosity. So I would love for us to kind of dive into a topic, or if you can recall a certain time at which like you felt like, I guess, if you could take me back to a moment where you felt that change for yourself. Like, do you remember who you were talking to or what you were talking about? I know that's maybe was a long time ago, but like a story.
Uh, yeah, it was just a quick, like just more the recent stuff going on. But this is something that I have been doing a little bit here or there, always depending on what the topic is. I tend to be more vocal or be more willing to talk about things that I just happen to be a little more passionate about. So, I'm not necessarily chiming in about every single little thing, especially if I don't feel very knowledgeable about it. In those cases, I might just be talking to throw ideas out and kind of get to know what other people's perspectives are, but not necessarily to challenge anyone's thought or or give information that I might have that they don't have. So,
True.
um, one of the last times that I was spending a lot of time engaging with people was, and it's still kind of constant right now during this time where everyone's talking about immigration.
Yeah.
Um, that happens to be a topic that I do know a lot about. I have firsthand experience. It's often something that I deal with in my workplace setting. It's in my family. And then on top of that, I am just kind of passionate about it. And I do have strong opinions and beliefs on this topic. And when I see misinformation or people who are misguided, especially people who I consider my friends or acquaintances, um, I try to respectfully be like, hey, did you ever think about this? Or have you heard about this? Or did you know that this? What do you think about that? And I have found that most people are receptive. If I'm very careful with how I approach them, right? Like,
I
unfortunately,
I
you
like
won't
those
get very
sentence
far.
stems that you're like, did you know about this? Have you heard about this? Or what about this? It's very
Exactly.
open-ended and not attacking or accusing either. Yeah, you're just sharing.
Exactly. And I get people's passion about, hey, we need to call out terrible people and bad behavior and fight and fight. And I get that. I just sometimes have this like goal of actually trying to penetrate a little bit in people's hearts and minds. And I know that's just not going to happen if you're coming in strong and combative.
Mm.
Um, and I have found that I've just made stronger connections and build more rapport if I'm a little more gentle. And I
Hmm.
try very hard to do that. It's hard because I want to be like, can't you understand? Like, I don't understand why you don't get it, or why are you like this? But um, I know that that's not really going to do much.
Hmm. I like the way you said part of your goal is to penetrate people's hearts and minds. And in my last episode, the metaphor that I used was talking about how maybe I'm planting a seed, maybe I'm watering
Mhm.
someone else's seed. I'm not always going to get to see the fruits of that flower or that blossom, but knowing that like maybe I'm just like part of tending along the way. And I think the way you said that, just to penetrate a little bit, like it's just like sending some warmth there, sending some light there, that you're just
Mhm.
trying to get in, get a little closer. And you have a background in social work, that is
Mhm.
your degree and what you studied in college when we went to college together. So, can you talk a little bit about how some of your social work skills maybe are positively impacting your ability to kind of like meet people in this open way? And maybe how, for those of us that don't have a background in social work and people, what could we how could we orient ourselves in those conversations a little differently?
Yeah, social work, although I'm not actively in a social work position for my day job anymore, is a big part of like who I am and what I know and how I think.
Hmm.
Um, it helped me with my communication skills. A big thing about social work is not everybody is worthy. Everyone has a basic level of self-worth. Even people in prison, even
Hmm.
people who, every human being. That's like I don't know if it's like a motto, but that's part of like the social work philosophy. And then meeting people where they're at, and you have to help people help themselves. You can't just
Mm.
tell people stop doing that, do this. You have to be there alongside people as and guiding them and kind of being sneaky, in the way of not sneaky, but just like we just know it's not helpful when you tell people what to do if they're not bought in and if they haven't figured it out themselves, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. So social workers are consistently taught to not give like direct advice or commands or anything like it's you're asking questions, you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to show options, you're trying to teach and educate. And that's how you help people.
Yeah, I think
But the
it's an indirect way. It's indirect, not sneaky, but you're coming
right,
alongside someone and trying to relate and build that relationship and helping them come to those conclusions, which probably is a little different. So I get what you're saying there.
absolutely. Yeah. Just like you said.
Yeah, I love what you said about like the major tenant or like being all people have worth, all people are worthy. I don't know if you used the word equal. I'm not sure if you said that. You might have said that like all people are
Yeah, I don't
equal.
know. Mhm.
But like that is, I think, a major divide right now in immigration, and
Mhm.
in the way that we see our country interacting with other groups of people, and that I think people either also agree with us that all people are worthy, and whether you're in jail, no matter what you've done, you deserve help, support, resources, whatever that might look like. And I think that there are people in our country and people in leadership in our country who fundamentally don't agree with that statement.
Mm. Yep.
And I think that that comes down to immigration, the way we're seeing people put in these camps, and the way that we are not giving people healthcare, food, resources. Um, Sorry, I'm just like
Hmm.
feeling like so fucked up, man. Like it's so fucked up. But it's because we have people in our government that are dehumanizing and they like dehumanizing people. Um,
But we also have to remember that people in our government who are doing that are a reflection of where a lot of people are in our country in general, right? Um, we've elected these officials, and a lot of people are okay with this because they do it themselves, right?
yeah.
Something that's just coming up into my mind, uh, I've posted a few things and I've encouraged people to dialogue with me in the comment section of something I may post, whether it's an article, a video, opinion piece. And there really quickly early on in the immigration, like right now, what's happening, I had some people use the term illegals, right? A lot in my comment section. And
Mm,
I, in a gentle, clear way, said, hey, I'm not going to police what you do anywhere else, but here in my comment section, because I believe in like people first language or a basic level of worthy and dignity of all people, no matter what's happening. Um, I'm asking for people not to refer to people as illegals, right? What's that? It's using it as an adjective. I'm like
mm-hmm.
forgetting my English like
Yeah.
sentence structure or whatever.
Just to describe a
Um,
person. Yeah. An adjective.
use
Yeah.
but using it as their like identity, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
surprisingly, everyone no one pushed back on that. Everyone respected that. And I just wonder, are people going to think about that when they talk that way anywhere else outside of my Facebook page? Um, I'm a Christian as well, and so interestingly, with social work, thinking everyone has a basic level of respect of worthy and dignity. The same is true in Christianity. We have this belief that everyone is created in the image of God. Everyone, not
Mm-hmm.
just good people, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
good people.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. And because of that, using that, I was able to connect with some of the people who were commenting on my stuff are, fellow self-proclaimed Christians, and I'll take them at their word. And so like, how can you fight against that? So I'm asking you, can we be respectful of all human beings, please, and talk about them in a different way? And
Ah,
no one could be upset with me about that and respected my wishes.
I love that. Also, that you're like curating and establishing boundaries for your comment section and your space, but in doing so, it's still offering and like educating in a little way, in a soft way, that like, yes, hopefully that they will take that outside of that comment section. And I love the way that, yes, you're mirroring back to Christians. Well, we are all made in God's image. He knows the hair on everyone's head, every freckle, whatever. And so if we can remind people of that core value within themselves, yes, like to be Christ-like, to love the way that God loves. Like, what would that look like in this situation? And I think
Hmm.
something that I feel like not all Christians, I'd never want to speak in a generalizing way, but I do feel like there's a lot of Christians who forget Mary and Joseph and Jesus, they were refugees. They were not white. They were traveling because their land was unsafe. That is why Mary and Joseph were fleeing and going, and why Jesus was born in a manger. Like, they were refugees and
Hmm.
immigrants. So if people could take that historical biblical knowledge and use that to frame the way that they're looking at our world today, could that open up, yeah, their worldview a little bit? So,
Yeah,
and you're doing it in a loving way and not an attacking way. And
I
I think that
try.
that is all the
Yeah.
difference. It's all the difference. Um, and I was speaking earlier before you came on about how everybody has a role to play in the revolution or the resistance, or right now, everybody has a role to play. For some people, that can be engaging with others and communicating and conversing in the comment section. Not everybody has the capacity to do that. I don't think I would. So I have to
Fair.
I have to applaud and commend you in that way, but I love and I think your social work education, though it is also very much a core tenet of who I think Veronica has always been in her heart, growing up Christian as well, loving all, thinking everyone is worthy, that has probably given you an incredible foundation to be able to do that work right now. But I think you also gave some really great concepts to us that we could probably try to do a little bit more of too.
Yeah. No,
Um,
you're right. Not everyone is meant to fight every fight all the time, not even me.
yeah.
And some people have different skill sets. Some people have different energy levels or in different places of their lives. And in no way am I thinking everyone needs to do what I do. I see other people doing it and some people not, and that's okay. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
doing something different in
Mm-hmm.
this. You're right.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about when we were speaking before, when I invited you to come on the podcast, you had mentioned that you can tell when someone is commenting back with you and that like it might not be the most healthful conversation. Can you talk a little bit about what do you look for within those comments or when you're engaging with someone to know that this could be a fruitful conversation versus one where you're not going to give your time, energy, and attention?
Absolutely. Um, Good question. Um, Maybe some of it is vibes. Like I'm just like feeling the vibes, like the context. What other types of conversations have I had with this person if I've interacted with this person before? Do I know who they are? When it comes to strangers, and that who I don't know, I'm looking for the clear stuff. Name calling already is just like I don't know if I could do a lot of work there or say much that this person's going to want to hear in any way, right? I struggle very much and have not figured out how to talk to people who are very into conspiracy theories. When I start hearing just like blatant, crazy things that are just like, oh, you believe that? Got it. I don't know if we can,
Me,
continue this
yeah.
conversation. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
you
know if I
can't
can
meet
meet you
them where they
anywhere.
are. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, do you, peace be with you? Like, yeah. And so I'll find some way to, get out of that conversation either by not responding or saying, thank you for your time. See you later.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be diplomatic, but those are like two big things that I
Mm-hmm.
see. If people completely ignore everything that I said
Mm-hmm.
just to say what they want to say. I'm like, okay, well, then this isn't a conversation, right? You just want to rant, and you don't want to have a dialogue. So thank you for your rant, and I won't respond, right? Like, I'm just not going to respond. I'll leave it there. And
Mm-hmm.
those are some choices I've had to make.
Yeah. Have you ever had to like block someone that you were friends with or remove someone from your like social media? Have you, or I know sometimes you're engaging with people that you know are friends of friends, and sometimes you might be in other people's comment sections, and so it's people that are strangers. But have you ever had to have to do that?
I have never had to do that. It has never maybe because I haven't let it, but there has been no interaction where I felt like it got so nasty. I need to X this person. Have I made decisions outside of conversations based off of how I see others just conducting themselves online, or just like everything that they're posting is just and if they're not someone in my direct circle of family or friends, like friends of friends, if it's a friend of a friend who I probably haven't seen in 17 years and I see that they're just like really nasty people, I'm like, hey, they don't have to be on my friends list, so let me just delete. And
Yeah.
it's low stakes, not a big deal. I do that often.
Hmm. Um, and then I also wanted to ask, have you done some like engaging with people on social media in the comment section and then seen these people in person, and have any conversations like come off screen to IRL where like you're like, hey, we were talking about all that stuff online. Like, what is it like now when you re-encounter someone in person? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, recently I made a decision that I'm like, when I see this person online, I want to give them a handshake and say, hey, especially the ones who were engaging well with me, right? Like, I'm like, hey, thank you for engaging respectfully with me. I hope that you understand I just love to do this and I'm not trying to attack you. I've literally had those conversations with people in real life. Few people from my church, people in distant family circles. And usually it's well received and we're all cool and we do a little fist bump and it's all good, even if we disagree
Hmm.
on a few things. But surprisingly, I think in some of these conversations, these good conversations that I've had, pe both me and the other people see how much overlap there truly is
Hmm.
in our belief system and our opinions.
Yeah.
And I try to really focus on that. I say, hey, look, see how we actually agree on a lot of things. We both believe that everyone is made in the image of God or is worthy of respect and a certain level of respect and dignity. We both want to protect our families. You think I don't want to protect my family? I'm thinking about like immigration, right? Like,
Hmm.
obviously, we want to protect the vulnerable and our children and our households, right? So, like, there's a lot of overlap, and I try to highlight those things, and I feel like that goes a long way.
Yeah, to really emphasize we have a lot more in common. As right now, our government is very divisive, and we have this primarily two-party system that everything
Hmm.
is about our contrasts, everything is about our differences. Whereas if we tried to have a more loving approach to understanding the ways that we have so much in common, that could really shift a lot. Um, I also wanted to ask, have you had any conversations with people where they've come back to you and said, thank you, you've changed my perspective, or I haven't thought about it like that? Have you felt any flowers? Have you had any flower moments where you got to feel like that at all?
Not that big of a flower moment. No, I haven't had someone come to me and be like, you changed my mind, or I see things so differently. And I hope that that is happening, or maybe it happens 10 years from now, like you said, planting a seed or being a
Yeah.
part of that person's journey in some way or another, right? Even if I never get to see the fruit that comes from that seed. But I have interacted with people who were humble enough to say, hey, you're right about this one thing that you said,
Hmm.
or that have said, yeah, you're right that that was wrong about my side, like if I called something out. And I do love that. I love to see when some people can be humble about the side that they're on, right? Politically or even religiously. Like, I have a lot of conversations just about the Bible and Christianity as well, because surprisingly, there is a lot of diversity of thought within Christianity about theology and philosophy and the
Hmm.
Bible. And so even in those conversations, it's like, oh yeah, like you're right that I was wrong. And I do appreciate when people can do that. I try to do the same thing.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. That like to have the perspective that like we never know everything. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes or say the wrong thing.
Hmm.
And allowing us to like evolve as humans in that way. So that's good stuff. I also wanted to touch on a little bit about like identity in politics, because I know as we kind of connected, I made the assertion, like I assumed
Mhm.
that you were Republican or that you've always voted conservatively. And so when we were dialoguing,
Interesting.
I know, and I was like, I was very surprised. But like maybe I knew back when we were in school together, like maybe I knew that you had voted, you know, differently in different elections, but I didn't remember that. So I was like, oh, okay. So I really want to share with like the listeners a little bit around how you've navigated and approached politics and political parties, or how you have approached voting over the different elections. Because I was raised so devoutly liberal, crazy hippie
Hmm.
liberal, that I have just voted Democrat every election that I could.
Sure.
Proud still, of course, but I I'd like to say, I'm not married to being a Democrat. I could vote for someone if they have the ideals that I believe in. I'd like to say that. I haven't voted any differently, though. I've been loyal to the Democratic Party. But I would love to share with our listeners just a different perspective.
Yeah. So I'll just be honest about like where I come from and what I've done. The opposite of you, grew up in a very conservative environment, both religiously and politically. Although both of my parents would say, "Oh, like I'm not married to one thing or another." Historically, they did vote very Republican. Um, Although I'm hearing now from my mom that she lied in the past about certain things. So I think she may have voted in a way that we didn't know at some point in time in the
Mm,
past. But not only that, our circles, right? In our circles, the church we went to, the people around us, there it was just very conservative, both religiously and politically. So I respected and valued and admired my dad so much, which I still do, right? Like I still honor and respect my dad. But I just kind of like took his word for everything and
mm,
just voted the way he did, if that makes sense, without fully deciding or knowing everything for myself, if that makes sense. So I did in presidential elections vote Republican the first two times. You're talking about when I was 18
hmm
and when I was
We're
what is that,
just
22?
entering into the
Yeah.
political sphere. Yeah.
I turned 18 the year of voting, and so I got to vote. Whereas I do have some friends that weren't quite
hmm
I don't even think you were 18 that
I
first year
I could vote for Obama his first term.
for his first one. Okay.
hmm hmm
So there you go. But I
hmm
had some friends who didn't, and I just like made the cutoff and I got to vote that year. Um, I can laugh about this now. Yes, I didn't vote for Obama, and I do regret that. Um,
It's okay.
but it's so funny that like Mitt Romney and what was the other guy? McCain, like relatively mild in the grand like 2020, we're seeing like, oh, they weren't that bad, like
Yeah.
compared to what we have
Yes.
now, right?
Yes.
Um, and then just little by little, it's not even that my values or beliefs changed. I think I just have found that my goals can likely be more accomplished on the Democrat side than on the Republican side, if that makes sense. Maybe a few opinions have changed over time, but like I still want the better for everyone, and I've always wanted that. But at some point in
hmm
time, I was convinced that that was going to be done by voting Republican, right?
mm
And now I'm not convinced about that anymore. When you say the flexibility of being able to vote anywhere, I would consider myself very left of center, but maybe not radically left, but like
Yes.
I'm solidly left, you know,
hmm
if we have to do that. But that's for federal elections. And bigger state elections. But when it comes to like local elections, I'm much more flexible, right?
Mm.
Like if I know the person, it's very
Mhm.
easy for me to know who's running for mayor. Like they could,
Yes.
the last mayor, he goes to the bar that I'm often at, like, and we've had drinks together. And so I voted for him. He,
That's
he
cool.
happened to be a Democrat. But like if he was Republican and that cool, I'd be like, yeah, you
You
got
get
my
my
vote
vote.
because yeah, like you're doing a lot. And I think that it means something different in local elections. So when it comes to local elections, I'm way more flexible and I would not say I'll only vote this way, right? Here in Illinois, we have some candidates on the Democrat ticket who are, for the primaries, we have the primaries coming up,
Yeah.
who are looking problematic, right? And
Yes, I
so we
agree.
have to,
Mhm.
yeah, so we have to decide in the primaries who we're going to vote for. But what if that person doesn't make it and we do get stuck with a more problematic person? We'll have decisions that we have to make at that point, right?
Mhm. Um, I
I hope
love
that
that.
answers your question.
Yes, yeah. And I also think it's so cool to be able to interact with local politicians out in your community. I think that's very rare. And so that, like, you're right, you can interact with people. You can meet them. They're a part of your community. They're participating in the community. So that's really cool. So Veronica, you mentioned that when you're connecting with people online, if someone is sharing a lot of conspiracy theories, then you know that they're kind of showing you the information that they're engaging with. When you're finding resources online or engaging with articles and such online, what are you looking for to know that this is like a good source?
Yeah. Um, so first of all, I don't just blatantly trust everything, right? And when I'm reading, I also try to be careful about what exactly I'm reading. Am I reading something that's retelling something someone else said just because they're reporting? Sometimes I feel like people will read that and be like, look at how biased it is. It's showing what this one person said. I'm like, yeah, because that person said it and it should be reported on. But that doesn't mean that that article or that news source took a stand
Hmm.
or push a certain narrative, right? I try my best to double check things, just like reporters will try to have like corroboration, right? Like two or three sources to corroborate a story. I try to do the same thing, and I more often than not raise an eyebrow before I confirm, oh, I think that is true, right? Like even the whole like bombing of Iran got bombed. I was like, wait, what? Let me just double check that this is true and not just, and I look. I don't just take everything at face value. At the same time, I do have a few trusted news sources that pretty much synthesize news. I don't have time to just like read everything. And sometimes I just want snippets of what's really going on. And I have a couple of trusted resources. So I would suggest like finding that trusted news source that hasn't done you wrong, that has been considered reputable, reliable, valid.
Hmm.
And then from there, maybe going on, digging deeper, double checking things. I try not to sit in an echo chamber of only hearing from people that I know I'm automatically going to like and is going to make me feel good. Um, you have to be careful with that too, because you don't want to get stuck in like the opposite side where now you're just angry all the time.
Hmm.
But like a healthy level of checking out what's happening on the other side is something I try to do, and I would encourage a lot of people to do.
Yeah, I'm glad that you talked about like just double checking things as well, because over the last few months, there have been more than one occasion where I know I reshared something that wasn't true, or I reshared something that was like an AI thing. And my
Mm.
partner, thankfully, was like, babe, you should Google that. You should check that out. We should look on Snopes. And I did, and I was so embarrassed. But it's how quickly and how easily anyone can repost something on social media, and then rumors, lies, gossip suddenly become news to people.
Hmm.
And so I'm glad that you talked about that, because I've definitely been a victim of that. I'm thankful too. I've had some like friends and followers that'll DM me and be like, Rach, I don't know if that's real. And I'm just thankful that people are willing to be like, hey girl, holding up the mirror. and I can say,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I was wrong. And I can then post, sorry, everybody, if you saw the fake news I was posting.
The fake news I was posting.
Yeah, yeah.
No, absolutely.
Unintentionally.
So funny you're reminding me. My husband just yesterday sent me an image that's going around of Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen that says like, look at them now. And it's this terrible looking picture, making them look like kind of just creepy monster like. Right away I raised my eyes and I was just like my eyebrow and I was like, this has got to be AI, but I'm gonna double check because I know my girls, Mary-Kate and Ashley
Yes,
Olsen. And
yes.
so right away Googled I got reverse searched the image. I'm like, is this image real? Like, what's going on? And right away, I think it was Snopes. It's like, yeah, image going around. It's fake. It's altered. That's not Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. I was like, babe, I was like, what were you trying to do? Like, like, don't do this to me. And
Yeah.
we were laughing about it, but
Yeah, right. Because it's things even as mundane, right, about celebrities, pop culture, but also like actual news happening
hmm
worldwide that's all getting twisted. Um, Also, that you were speaking about trying to find alternative news sources that can like kind of like give us a different lens. The importance of that, because that echo chamber, if we're only watching the same news channel, we are only seeing one lens and one kind of narrative being fed to us. I personally don't have cable anymore, so I'm not watching news on TV, but I'm trying to follow diverse things on my social media because I don't want my algorithm to be so slighted. I want to
hmm
feel like I'm getting a better sense of what's happening worldwide. And now more than ever, it's very important that those of us that live in the United States try to find resources of other countries reporting on the United States
hmm
because we are seeing that there is news being suppressed. We are
hmm
seeing that there is not like with all these new CBS was bought out by this, was bought like all these news stations are now like a big monopoly conglomerate that we're not going to be getting true news all the time,
hmm
especially like stuff happening within our country within Minnesota right now, that they still are under siege by the government. And that news is not, it's trickling through firsthand people on social media, but we're not getting any national coverage anymore of that. So,
Right. You make a good point. Looking at news that's outside of your local area is important, even within our country, right? What is the state of Minnesota news, local news saying? And maybe why would that not be being picked up by CNN or Fox News or whatever, Reuters or whatever?
mm,
And then on top of that, like what's happening globally and what are people saying on not only what are other people around the world saying about the United States, but like what's literally happening there, right? Like what's going on in certain countries in Africa? What's going on in China? Who's reporting about what's going on over there? Um, and because that's good for us to not just only think about ourselves, to only think
yeah.
that the US is all we should be thinking about, right? Um, I was gonna say, I don't know what you said that reminded me about this, but like I also try to find out like what could be arguments against my line of thinking or my opinion,
Mm,
right? So, just throwing this out as an example, the war in Iran. I am not um very knowledgeable about like why we do wars or like what's behind the wars. And I always am trying to figure out like what's going on here. Why would someone be in favor of this war is a question I asked and researched. And then I said, and why would someone be against this war happening? And that kind of just helps me form my own opinions and my own thoughts and also just kind of know where people are coming from. And then when I see someone maybe super for it, right? I'm like, "Hey, did you ever consider that some people are against it because of these reasons?" Because I looked it up and I found out that that's how they feel about it, right? I just try to do that. Like what, or if I'm really passionate about something and I hear a fact and it sounds great, I'll say, how could this data be misrepresenting what's reality? And I just like the way I'm hearing it, but is it possible that I'm missing something and something that I may not like be true? And
mm.
I do try to check myself that way.
That is, which so insightful, but probably so hard to do as we are constantly being inundated with all these news alerts to have that moment of like stopping, slowing down the reaction, and like thinking. So I wanted to ask, you're speaking about the war specifically, did you go and like ask those questions on Google or online and try to search? Or was that like Veronica dialoguing with herself as she's like looking at news? I wondered.
Both. So as
That's
I'm
cool.
looking at news, you're obviously looking at articles that are talking about what different politicians are saying, right? So like the Democrats are saying this, the Republicans are saying that. So yes, I'm getting some information that way. But I also like get on things like Reddit and I'll just see what people are saying. I'm like, okay, like this is what some people feel. Like this is what they're feeling
Hmm.
and why they feel this way. And if these people on Reddit start saying specific things that I can confirm, with other news or other ways of confirming their information, I will do that. But it's mostly just to get a feeler of like, how are people feeling about this and why would they be for or against something?
Mm. I love that you're using Reddit because that truly is like a firsthand account from people all over the place that you can um, see people's stories.
Hmm.
Because if we only are using the news to inform what we are thinking, we are not really hearing from people that it's affecting, that skews our perception, of course. And so that's really powerful that I know like most people would think Reddit, that's not reputable. I think it is. I think it is, especially as have that social work background. Of course, that would show why you want to go and meet people where they are and hear about their accounts and experiences. And I think that you are so insightful and so intelligent that you're giving even me so many nuggets that I'm like, I could do better at that.
Oh.
But I know that it's going to be powerful and impactful to other people who are not quite like me, because I know that I have other listeners, of course, that are not maybe like me. And so I'm just like, I'm so thankful to be talking to you. Like you bring such wisdom, such wisdom.
Oh.
So I'm really excited. So, Veronica, at the end of every episode, I love to share affirmations with the listeners, something that they can kind of call and repeat with us. I think today, what would be the most impactful would be to teach the listeners some affirmations and mantras that they can use and repeat to themselves when they are looking at different news sources or needing to slow down that reaction time and kind of like think critically. So some of the sentences I think you said like who would benefit from this news, or like who would benefit from this war, or like who is benefiting from this news being articulated this way? What are some of those like questions and like things that you're like, I guess it's like Veronica's inner dialogue is really impactful. So like I want to teach listeners some of that inner dialogue.
Thank you so much for making me feel good about myself because here I am just thinking that I'm just clunky, just stumbling around and you're like, oh, I really like what you said. I'm like, that makes me, you flatter me. So thank you for that. But
Oh, it's
um,
sincere.
how, how about this? I think I normally start everything with asking, is this true? Right? Like,
Is this
can
true?
I double check? Is this true? Is there a spin to this? If so, what is the spin?
Is there a spin?
And mhm.
I'm just
And
repeating them
if
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
and if there is a spin, is there an alternative spin? And what's that spin?
Is
Right?
there an alternative spin? Hmm.
Um, I think those are some of the main ones that I would
Yeah.
look at.
And then the other thing I think would be really helpful and powerful to give people as affirmations and mantras as well, those sentence stems that you phrased for when you are presenting information to people in a comment section or trying to share something new with someone, that how do you like gently offer those things? What are those like things we lead with?
I try to respectfully be like, hey, did you ever think about this? Or have you heard about this? Or did you know that this? What do you think about that? I have found it also to be very helpful if you say, oh, I see what you're saying, or tell me if I'm getting this wrong, but it sounds like
Mm,
you're saying blank, right? And that doesn't mean that you agree with what they're saying, but it helps someone feel heard, like you did take the time to hear them out.
you're trying to,
That
yeah,
seems
reflect back what you got. Yeah. Hmm.
exactly. I think those are some of the main ones.
I think that those are most insightful things that I could give anybody leaving this conversation as an affirmation, because it's like, oh, like I can show love and acceptance to those who are different than me. Okay, but like this episode is all about engaging and meeting people and connecting with people. And so I don't think it's about what we need to like affirm to ourselves, but like how can we change the way we're speaking when we're engaging with people? That can really be a huge part of if there's any impact or influence, as opposed to attacking, criticizing, condemning. So I just love the way that you are meeting people where they are with a more open palm. That's what I feel. I just keep feeling like
Yeah,
this. Like you keep offering and you are open. Have you heard this? And you're sharing, but it's not like attacking, it's not
right.
accusing. So I really think that the posture like that you're taking is all the difference. Yeah. So
Thank you, friend.
thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being vulnerable to share some of your perspectives and experiences, and the bravery that you have had to say, like, I don't always get it right, and sometimes I might be wrong. And I think that that is a posture that we all can take.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I try to do at least.
So, radicals, it's up to you. You can be a comment troll, you can be a keyboard warrior, or you can take some of the advice that Veronica offered today and show up radically different in people's comment sections. Show up radically different on social media when you engage with friends, family, and strangers. And as always, stay radical.